Up you have the details for connecting. Obviously the passcode is ProTrans, and the network is Marquis, as you can see there, Marquis Docomo. And in relation to having Wi-Fi access, we didn't mention this in the first session, but we have this conference, like many of our global conferences, is actually streamed on the internet by video stream, and is then archived and available. So people around the world actually are capable and actually are logged in and watching as we speak now, and can actually participate by sending questions or making comments. And likewise, the audience can also use this function and make comments or questions if you're too shy to raise your hand during the Q&A. So just quickly to review how you do that, there are details in the back of your program, but you can connect via the live page of our conference. There's a bit.ly link up there. Again, this is in your program. And from there, you just need your email address and your delegate number. That is actually the number on your badge. I think it starts 143 or 147, excuse me, I can't remember. But anyway, it's on your badge, and then you have access to the streaming, and there's a social stream at the bottom where you can make comments. I'll be reviewing it during the Q&A to see what questions might come in, either from our external audience or from in the room. But again, the preference will always be for questions that people raise their hands for. We have a survey at the end of the conference that we actually do at the end of the day today, where we use this, so actually it's actually good to familiarize yourself with it now. And after this session, we will have lunch sponsored by Ryder. It's just next door or just down to the left, so you'll follow signs as you exit. So those points aside, let's get down to the order of business. In the first session, we obviously had the Secretary of the Economy speaking at length about the importance of Mexico's foreign trade policy, and particularly encouraging free trade and open global competitiveness to kind of avoid protectionism and try to compete globally. And that, of course, has been vital for Mexico, as it has become now the 7th largest producer, 4th largest exporter. And I think related to the global competitiveness is also regional competitiveness. It's a federal country. There's states with different strengths, and that's part of what we're going to be focusing on today, including very fortunate to have the governor of one of the key automotive states, Guanajuato, from which we'll move on to shortly. We've had a few changes in the program, so apologies for that, but we still have a great panel up there for you. Let me just briefly introduce you. So we first have Governor Miguel Marquez from Guanajuato, as I mentioned. We'll then hear from Al Zapanta, who's the president and CEO of the U.S.-Mexico Chamber of Commerce, which is a vital organization helping to encourage business on both sides of the border. And joining us as well is Brian Hall, who is the program manager for the AIAG, the association, the Automotive Industry Action Group, sorry. And Brian will talk to us about some investment opportunities and also things like CT-PAD and the ways that we can improve trade and logistics. So obviously, we're all here today because of the booming automotive industry in Mexico, and of course the many opportunities that it offers. But of course, we can't shy away from the challenges that we face too, which is also why we all bring everybody together in this room. Hector Gutierrez from Delphi mentioned some of these earlier, so I won't dwell on them, but comparing Mexico on the international league tables, it actually ranks fairly middle of the road when it comes to logistics performance and competitiveness, if not actually surprisingly poorly in some areas, as Mr. Gutierrez mentioned, 50th globally in the World Bank Logistics Performance Index. That actually puts it behind Vietnam and Saudi Arabia, and with customs in particular getting a poor score there. And also referenced was the World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Index, where Mexico is actually ranked even less flatteringly at 61st. That actually puts it on the same score as Rwanda, Macedonia, and Jordan. Some of the areas where it scores particularly poorly are in transparency, in public institutions, in education, and in labor market efficiency, where it ranks quite surprising, 121st globally. The Secretary mentioned last about the story of two Mexicos, which is a kind of analogy that I think a lot of commentators and experts use one Mexico full of economic opportunity, vibrancy, dynamicism, and another that can be low-tech, experiences high violence, there's corruption, there are issues. I think luckily for most of us, the automotive industry fits more firmly in one Mexico compared to the other. And I think for those of you who do business globally, and certainly for us who cover the industry globally, we can't really see automotive logistics in Mexico on a par with Vietnam or Rwanda. It doesn't really ring true. This is a market where logistics managers from global companies like Nissan, Fiat Chrysler, and GM have often told us that their logistics in Mexico are often as efficient in many areas as they are in the US. Not in every area, but of course, these strengths are key to why so much investment is coming here. And I think that's because automotive, as the secretary kind of showed us with his kind of history of the industry, it has really been a benchmark for Mexico. It's kind of the first industry to really help open up the economy and pour in a lot of that investment going back to the 60s through NAFTA and now of course today. But that by no means suggests we should be complacent about it. Many people, I think, would agree on some of the challenges Mexico faces, whether in its more advanced or less developed areas, and whether that's infrastructure constraints, security issues, border crossing congestion, customs issues, and also, not least, the challenging of finding the right labor, training, and retaining that labor. I think one of the ways that has been most effective to address these issues has been collaboration, whether that's cross-industry, with government especially, with education institutions. And I think, if nothing else, this conference does sort of shine a light on the potential for Mexico, because we are able to bring together so many different pieces of that puzzle, whether it's federal government, as we had this morning with the secretary, the state government, as we have with Governor Marquez this morning, and indeed key agencies and institutions like the U.S.-Mexico Chamber of Commerce, who are there to support the sector. So, I think, again, that puts us on a good grounding to deal with some of those challenges, and I think over time, move Mexico quite much further up those league tables. So now I'd like to introduce the governor. I've actually had the pleasure of introducing him once before when he spoke at our Automotive Logistics Global Conference this past September. And as most of you know, and many of us learned then, Guanajuato is a vital automotive hub. It's seen huge investment from American, Japanese, German companies over the past 4 or 5 years in particular, and it's arguably the fastest growing automotive cluster in the country. And I think the governor and his team, they really understand, from my dealings with them and from what I understand, the importance of logistics, the importance of having an efficient supply chain, and critically the importance of working with the industry and communicating with the industry directly, which again is a sign, I think, that Governor Marquez is here again today. He said in his last speech at our last conference that without logistics there is no business, and I think that's a quote that we like to apply kind of across our whole suite of conferences and the whole global sector that we deal with. So again, a great honor to have and introduce to you once again Governor Miguel Marquez.
Muy buenos días
Good
a todas y a todos los
morning,
presentes.
ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank the invitation to be part of this event and to talk about logistics. Hector Lopez, thank you, Secretary of Economic Development and his team, which is fundamental part of the economic development of Guanajuato. Friends, thank you. I will begin talking about the great opportunity that you have given us. In this forum, we cannot dismiss it for people from Guanajuato. There are relevant aspects from the automotive cluster in Guanajuato. It is consolidating as one of the most important of Latin America, and it encourages us to work and provide infrastructure and logistics services in our state. my participation in Detroit, September last year, as Chris just mentioned, for me it was important because the great challenge has a name, which is the economic growth of our state, of our country, and how to address it through a good design and development of logistics. Mexico in the next years will reach production levels aiming to 4.5 or 5 million units of the automotive sector. Thus, the importance we have in this area. Most of this production is for exports. It is expected that our country will export more than 3 million units. And these are really great news, but also a great challenge and opportunities as well. And before this scenario of expansion, it is a must to strengthen our logistics infrastructure. And in the case of Guanajuato, as you can see in the screen, our location in our country is privileged, particularly logistics wise. But even when Guanajuato enjoys of an excellent geographical place, nature has given it us this to us in the center of our country. This is certainly an advantage, but it's not enough because within this context of globalization, our economic development lies in connectivity. So it is important that we are in the center, but we must be connected in order to move all goods and services. And as Chris has said, this is a quote that becomes a basic principle in the economic development of our state. Without logistics, there is no business. So today, you will see that for this region, Guanajuato, 75% of automotive industries have a presence, and I am showing you all the manufacturers with this clear exports vocation that demands logistic solutions in our country, in our state. So this is where the potential lies. Now, specifically about Guanajuato, that it has been acknowledged as a dynamic automotive cluster, we can clearly see how regional growth is basic, and it is becoming a regional vocation. And in a radius of 215 kilometers, I'm talking about 9 assembly plants with more than 2 million units of production in the next 3 years, representing that this production volume certainly will generate a critical mass. And this is the installation of new vendors from tier 2 and tier 3. So this means that this area that it's called Mexico's diamond represents huge opportunities. Because in these states, in the region of Guanajuato,
There we have 17% of the territory, including Mexico City. That's 17% of Mexican territory, accounting for 45% of Mexican population and accounting for 51% of the GDP. Therefore, here we have the heart of economic development of Mexico in this area, with logistic solutions at the national level available for all of you. What has happened since 1994 to this date? More than $20 billion have been invested, as it is clearly seen in the last 20 years in during those pre-presidential during those federal administrations, and growth for the sector, with accounting for 70%. This is not by chance. This is part of a mid-term and long-term project After one administration, the next takes office, and there is continuity. There is certainty for those investing. What was signed and approved by the previous government and federal administration is maintained during this next administration, because that goes beyond different administrations, beyond people. This entails a state policy approach. Therefore, this has not been by chance. The environment has been highly favorable, highly competitive for the companies installing in the region and settling down there. And there is something I always say: we thank our labor. And we're not talking only about the company that got here 5, 10, 20 years ago. They get there and then they are settled there, and there is no follow-up. Quite the opposite. This is a follow-up, as if we had an account executive, so to speak. They are not left alone. After 10 or 5 years, we keep on available with the telephone to answer any concern or question they may have. Our offices are open to take care of these entrepreneurs and to give personalized care, and this is part of the personalized logistics we offer. Here we have some of the companies that have settled down in our company, wide 156 OEM companies, result of a long track history of promotion with challenges and opportunities. Outside of the state of Guanajuato, we have been able to instill trust in you so you can invest in the state. We are highly committed with the sector. This has become a trend that cannot be left aside for the future generations. This is a great opportunity for us, which has become true. This is a success story. We're building it every day through a methodic, disciplined work, instilling trust in all of you. A key indicator, which is an example of the result of this great effort in the last 20 years, and this is very important. We grew 200 million US dollars of investment at the beginning, from the beginning of the 1990s to 2014. Now we are talking about more than 16 billion US dollars. This shows the work that we have been doing. This shows the effort we have had, and these out of the 16 billion US dollars of investment, 12 billion dollars have to do with the automotive industry. More than 20 countries have been investing. And let me say that regarding this accrued investment, there is an important aspect in our state government plan. We set $5 billion as a goal for investment from abroad and domestic investment for this administration, and we have now covered 4.8 billion, and we are planning now to have during these 6 years of the local administration to have $8 billion of investment. That's the new goal, because we have anticipated and achieved the goal before the established term. In our state, these 3 have entailed a lot of investment from abroad. We're talking about the US investment, Japanese and German investors, who are our main allies, 25 Germany companies, 70 from Japan, and 40 from the US. This is a great opportunity as well as a great challenge, and many jobs have been created. Let me assure you, this shows what has been achieved. This also shows that in 2 years, 141 projects, new companies have come to the state, accounting for 4.8 billion US dollars, which is equal to 43,000 direct jobs created for the region. This is a great motivation to keep on working in order to arrive at the 7 billion investment goal in the time left for the state administration. Even though the automotive parts started in Guanajuato at the end of the 60s, when at the time mainly all started, and then in the 1990s there was the fast track approach with GM, which opened its doors to internationalization in Silao municipality, and this made the gears and engines production now makes piston shafts, cam and pistons are now manufactured in the state. In this hard work that we have conducted, assembly, now going to sophisticated manufacturing processes, this is just a token, a clear example, a decisive example of something that is key for me, which is the formation of human capital. Without human capital, logistics would not be able to achieve the goals that we have set before us. These are some of the companies with a strong presence in the state of Guanajuato, which have been arriving. Every month we are updating our database and the slides because new companies are arriving. Here we have just a few of them which are very well known by all of you, from the US, from Japan. Many of you already know these companies. They are already settled, working and giving results for the state of Guanajuato. Some German strong companies which have also presence in the state of Guanajuato and which are also giving great results for our state. I would like to talk about highway connectivity, which is something of great importance for you. Guanajuato, by being in this fascinating world of automotive industry, has now a public policy strategy at the state level associated basically to education. I say this again, human capital. Education and human capital, they go hand in hand. This is a basic logistic concept. But also, I must say that public works have been key, and it has been also a great strategy for economic development to have its full potential. That's the focus we have had, so that Guanajuato stayed in this global world. Business opportunities are sustainable, they are competitive, and development is fostered. This means we have a very good location in the country. This is the location of Guanajuato, and this is our main market, the United States of America. 8 or 9 hour drive from Guanajuato to the main border. Here we have the main ports. 5-hour drive from Guanajuato and this other region, which make it particularly important. I must also say that we have decisively invested in highway connectivity. What do we mean by this? For us, it is key because we know the global supply chains require feasibility, timeliness, agility, allowed by this infrastructure. Here I'm sharing some investments that are being generated just now. The distance in kilometers and miles and the time to go from one point to the other. Here we also see the work that has been done in terms of highway and railroads, as I will share with you in detail in the following slides. Here, this is the railway system for Mexico, which is key. In Guanajuato state, you are able to see how the two main railways go through Kansas and Ferromex railroad lines. They cross through our state. Therefore, we are able to transport and carry our products and to supply services in an efficient, timely manner throughout the country and elsewhere outside of the country through the main ports of the Mexican Republic. Another thing that has helped us a great deal is growth in the case of the airport flights. Guanajuato has also become a landmark, and we are talking here and saying Guanajuato now has flights to Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, and we are looking into the possibility, because of the growth of Japan with more investment, to have a non-stop flight to Japan. We are working on that. For us, this is of utmost importance. The airport will have to grow very soon. Growth is increasing. In 2014, there was a 36% growth in number of passengers going through our airport. Just in 1 year, 36% demand of tourists, those coming to Guanajuato for holidays or as well as for business. 1.2 million passengers last year, accounting for 40% growth. This means there is mobility that we need to generate, also the cargo system. Now we are receiving cargo airplanes. We're very happy about that in our airport. The railroad system, I forgot to mention one point, which is also very important. We also have intermodal terminal in Silao to bring cargo to Chicago in only 5 days. We have a dry port, so to speak, so cargo transportation has become more efficient. Another point I want to share with you, this has to do with connectivity offered by Guanajuato with the best highway system in the country, railroads, a dry port, an airport, but also there is another important one. Last year the state received an award. We were honored and that we are proud of that as the interior port, the logistic trade and exterior world class area, more an industrial park, more than 1,000 hectares. This is a representative model which was determined to be the best as the best industrial area in the country. This so-called dry port located here, we were awarded this honor by the Ministry of the Economy last year. Here you see the connection with the highways. Another one is connecting through here, and there is another one down below. There are 3 main highways which allow for the flow to mobilize goods. This has allowed Guanajuato to have 10 consolidated industrial sections, and now we are committed to create 7 more industrial sections. To this date, we have created not 7 but 10 industrial sections, more than 2,500 hectares available for industrial plants. This shows a key growth which allows for these industrial areas to be strategically established in the north and northeastern part along the industrial corridor, and some others in the southern part of the state. This shows potential growth. In less than 2 years, some other 10 industrial sections will be created. Let me also say, dear friends, that today all this has made the automotive industry to be part of our life. We feel proud of it. We cannot conceive or think about Guanajuato without the automotive industry. Since we are the most dynamic automotive cluster in Mexico and Latin America, for us it is key. It has become a great trend, and today in the universities, most of them are the universities have engineering courses in majors. We see robotics, mechatronics, hardware, aeronautics, all these areas of science as something key for the development of our people. Today, our high schools, middle school is also focused on that. Today, Guanajuato and all people from Guanajuato are working hard for the automotive industry to be something to be proud and feel proud of. We have focused 100% on it. We want to be great hosts, not only to have a good business relationship, for you to have a nice place to live, for you to live well in Guanajuato, for you to be the main promoters of Guanajuato, those who have settled in Guanajuato, settled down, those who are doing business in Guanajuato with your plants in Guanajuato, to explain what Guanajuato is like and what Guanajuato is doing to be the best scenario for investment. I would like to close by saying the following. Yes, without logistics there is no business, but also to say that in Guanajuato, if we don't focus on development of human capital, all the people that have to do this work for the industry, we will not be able to do it. Therefore, for us, education and employment become the formula for success to develop Guanajuato. People from Guanajuato understand it well, and therefore we want to be your allies, your hosts, your friends, to understand that Guanajuato is something available for you through all the people from Guanajuato. Great for us today. In Guanajuato, we rank as the second state with more youth in Guanajuato in the whole country, and we have a great offering which is very productive for all of you. I want to thank you very much for this kind invitation to share what the industry is all about in Guanajuato, and also you who have trusted in us to invest in our state. Thank you.
Gracias, thank you so much. Okay, muchas gracias again, Governor Marquez. Again, a fantastic speech there, highlighting both the opportunities available in the state of Guanajuato, but I think for me, particularly the focus on human capital, the focus on education and training, and again, collaboration across industry, that as a real key logistics factor, perhaps even more than some of the technical algorithms and otherwise they might discuss. I think that's a really great and important point to drive home, and something that we'd be glad to pick up on more in the Q&A, along with some of the infrastructure developments that are happening in the state, which I'm sure are all to you. Also great to hear that it's such a young state, vibrant. Of course, when all of you experienced logistics managers come, you're going to raise that average up by quite a bit, because all of you with your 30, 40 years experience, but I think the state is young enough to absorb that as well. So again, thanks to Governor Marquez. We at Automotive Logistics, we've learned from the industry that we track, and so you always need a plan B. Sometimes things don't work out right the first way. Al Zapanta had to catch a next meeting. Unfortunately, he had to leave, but we've immediately, using premium freight, brought in a replacement, and we have Joseph Chapa, who's the Vice President of International Trade Centers at the U.S.-Mexico Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to invite you to speak and introduce your organization and make some of the points. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. A little surprise, more of a surprise for me than for you. I didn't know I was going to be doing this, but he gave me a few little notes before he left. Logistics is always a challenge, and the logistics, Mr. Zapanta, and of course his apologies I want to convey to you, he has to catch a flight because he's on the board of directors of a very big multi-billion-dollar company, Tyson Foods, and there's a board meeting that he has to fly to, and logistically getting to Northwest Arkansas is not easy, so he only had one opportunity. He thought he would be able to share at least 15 or 20 minutes, but he was not able to. Mr. Zapanta, I've been working with him for about 25 years or so I'm only now learning about him. Very important person. He's had a lot of experience. He's worked in the White House. He's been an Undersecretary of Interior. He's been in the private sector. He's a retired Major General of the Army, quite a hero in the Vietnam War, many medals, very distinguished. So not easy to fill his shoes, but he gave me a little bit of an outline to talk to you about a couple of two or three things. A little bit about the chamber, our organization, a little bit about a program that we're involved in, and the interchange or how the automotive industry plays in this project. Now, the chamber, and of course I want to convey, and Al asked me to, Louis, thank you very much for the opportunity to participate with this fine organization and event. A lot of work that you've done, and we appreciate being here with you. The U.S.-Mexico Chamber is a binational chamber. Now, binational, what is that? It's the only one that exists between the U.S. and Mexico. We sometimes get confused with another organization, the American Chamber. We're not the American Chamber. The U.S.-Mexico Chamber has offices. Its main office is Washington, D.C., and there's an office in Mexico City. And as a binational chamber, it has a very simple mission: promote trade and business between the two countries. Just promote trade. The infrastructure, how it does this, the chamber has what we call chapter offices. They're offices, and they're in the principal cities. In the U.S., New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, Dallas, Houston, Seattle, the big cities. They tend to be small offices. Each office has a specific profile and membership. And in Mexico, again, Mexico City, Monterrey, Guadalajara, León, Puebla, etc., the Veracruz, the main cities. So what the chamber does, it has members on both sides, of somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 members, but some of these members are large members. Members like General Motors with 50 plants, and Delphi, and some of these other companies. So we represent a lot of installations, and in helping to promote and to deliver that mission, that objective, promote trade. The chamber has a lot of projects and programs and initiatives of how it does this and how it helps these companies and promoting trade. So some of these programs include initiatives, and I will talk about one of them. A project that we began, at least in concept, a number of years ago, but we are beginning to implement it. The project, we call it Connect Mexico. And what it is, it's an e-commerce marketplace project to do a B2B, B2C, initially between Mexico and the U.S., but with the initial focus of helping the SMEs in Mexico through the infrastructure that we have, the offices, and through some relationships that we have with institutions in Mexico, such as ours, Chambers of Commerce. There's a Chamber of Commerce called Canacintra, which is the Chamber of Industry, and Concanaco, the Chamber of Commerce and Services and Tourism, and Centro Patronal, the employers. With these organizations, we have cooperative agreements, but we signed a very important agreement with the federal government of Mexico. The agency is called ProMexico, and it's the Export Promotion Agency of Mexico that reports directly to the Secretary or the Ministry of Economy, Mr. Ildefonso Guajardo. In this cooperative agreement, their job in ProMexico is to promote exports and to help SMEs, small, mid-sized enterprises. So we are using this cooperative agreement to establish the initial size or uploading or onboarding of the SMEs onto this marketplace. And from that, take it to across to the two countries on the demand side and the supply side. And obviously, in this project for us, one of the most important verticals is the automotive industry. It's by far the largest, a lot of exports out of Mexico, and to the extent that we will be able to help the SMEs in Mexico and connect them to the U.S., that's what we want to do. Obviously, there's other verticals, and this is a broad-based program that will help all industries, all sectors, on the consumer side, on the B2B side, and all that. So we are just beginning with this project. We're very excited about the project. The government of Mexico is involved and very anxious for us to do well in this project. So we, in the chamber, is a basically third party. We represent part of industry, but we work with government, but we're not government. So we're kind of we're a nonprofit organization, obviously. So our interest is to help industry and to help both countries. So that's the principal focus of the project, of the program. I do want to say that for us, the automotive industry is very important. We will be opening and inaugurating an office in Detroit, Michigan on March the 4th, which Mr. Zapanta asked me to mention. He also wanted me to mention that in some of the other sectors that we get involved in, energy. Energy is a very important one, especially in the context of the reform in Mexico that is taking place right now. As it happens, both Mr. Zapanta and I are from the oil industry. He worked with a company for many years, Arco, Atlantic Richfield, and I worked for another small company called ExxonMobil for about 20 years. And most of my work was internationally. I worked in different places. I worked in Africa, in South America, in the Caribbean, in different parts, but the international part. The energy reform in Mexico is very important. We're excited about it because we think it's going to be a significant benefit to the people of Mexico. So we are establishing a consortium. We know and we have been told that Mexico will need a lot of trained professionals and technicians in this sector. So we in the Chamber are getting involved in trying to establish a consortium comprised of not only the Chamber and government, but also private industry. Small companies like ExxonMobil and Shell and Halliburton and some of these others that will participate in this consortium in order to identify the best training methods to train here in Mexico or for Mexico, train professionals on the engineering side for the upstream, the midstream, and the downstream, as you know, the production, in other words, the marketing, the distribution. In these areas, not only engineers, in the U.S. we train petroleum engineers. In Mexico, this is kind of a new field in terms of training petroleum engineers, but we can train electrical, mechanical, and civil engineers to become petroleum engineers. So this is what we're aiming to do. And also on the technician side. So anyway, that's just kind of a couple of projects that we're involved in as a chamber. The automotive industry is of significant focus to us. The state of Guanajuato, and Mr. Zapanta wanted me to convey to Governor Miguel Marquez, our friend, our solidarity with him, and the fact that we will be in Guanajuato in the next couple of months, in April, to take a trade mission to visit you and your state and some of the organizations there. So again, that's just kind of a glimpse of what the Chamber is, how we're involved, and our interest in the automotive sector. I'll be happy to answer questions at the right time. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And I think, again, an important message for all of you out there to use some of the resources that are at your disposal, like the U.S.-Mexico Chamber of Commerce. A special kind of thank you from Automotive Logistics as well to the association, as they have been very instrumental in helping us to recruit some speakers and with the organization of this conference. So a thank you there as well. Before we open up for a few questions, I'd like to invite Brian Hall from AIAG.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think we've just gone past noon, and I'm the last speaker before lunchtime. My name is Brian Hall. I'm the program manager of supply chain at AIAG, and I was originally slated to be in session 3, which was connecting with Mexico, but now I'm in the investing portion, and I'll talk a little bit about how the Automotive Industry Action Group and our dedicated volunteers invest in the automotive industry through our work groups and some of the projects that we'll be doing. I'd especially like to thank Louis and Christopher and the fine Automotive Logistics team for allowing us to speak about what we do at AIAG very briefly here today before lunch. Just AIAG at a glance, we are a globally recognized trade association that was founded about 33 years ago in 1982. We're a not-for-profit trade association, and it's a unique forum to collaborate on industry issues. We have about 21 different committees within supply chain that work on a wide range of things, from finished vehicle logistics to customs and security, materials management, etc. And AIAG and our numerous, or over 900 volunteers from member companies, we have over 1,200 member companies, including OEMs, Tier 1s, Tier 2s, carriers, service providers, etc., students, universities. We invest in the automotive industry through the work of our volunteers to provide training, standards, publications, self-assessments, and manuals to really improve efficiency and eliminate waste within the global automotive industry. We have about 60 active projects, and I mentioned we have about 21 within supply chain. Our board of directors at AIAG is a venerable who's who within the automotive industry. Several big name OEMs. There you see Nissan, Honda, Ford, Fiat Chrysler, General Motors, Toyota. We have several Tier 1 companies, Delphi, Denso, Johnson Controls, Lear, Magna, Robert Bosch, TRW as well, and we also have service providers such as IBM. Our board of directors meet on a quarterly basis and set the goals and directives for AIAG, the Automotive Industry Action Group, the directions, the problems, the pain points that they would like us as an association to tackle. Just real briefly, here's our supply chain management organization chart. We work on standards within containers and packaging, including standardization and visibility and tracking, a big issue within the automotive industry, millions of dollars lost each year. Mr. Bill Kerrigan, who will be moderating a session, a very respected individual within the finished vehicle logistics sector, heads up or program manages 5 finished vehicle logistics groups at AIAG, and as I look around, I see some familiar faces that have attended past conferences or have participated in committees before. We have import-export groups, and I'll talk about something that we did. CTPAT was mentioned in previous speeches, and I'll talk about what we did to help improve efficiencies within the automotive industry through the work of our customs and supply chain security team. We also deal with export, labeling, RFID, logistics, including total landed cost, materials management, which includes our materials management operations guideline, logistics evaluation, MMOGLE. We have information about training if you're interested in that at our booth. Purchasing, supply chain risk management and visibility, value chain transparency and mapping, and then also event planning, and again, we appreciate the support of automotive logistics in this event. So I'd like to discuss a project that we've launched within the past 9 months at AIAG regarding CTPAT, or Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism. This has been mentioned in previous presentations, and also I think Secretary Guajardo mentioned as well the need for border security, and CTPAT was a result really expedited, I think, by the terrorist attacks of September 11th in 2001. Here you can see a picture of various representatives from the United States government at the Ambassador Bridge in Detroit, Michigan, formally announcing the introduction of the CTPAT program. CTPAT uses a 5-step risk assessment process. First step is mapping cargo flow and identifying business partners, then conducting a threat assessment, conducting a vulnerability assessment, preparing an action plan, and documenting on how these risk assessments are conducted. This is part of the program through, or the requirements through CBP, the U.S.'s Customs and Border Protection. So these are the key points for a risk assessment process when you are a foreign manufacturer importing into the United States. There are many important reasons to join CTPAT if you are a foreign manufacturer. One is border security. 2 is an expedited release of low-risk shipments or at entry points within the U.S., fast lanes or free and secure train lanes. Lower inspection rate. CBP has stated that importers receive roughly 60% less chance of random inspection. Head of line in case of a serious event that disrupts the border. Head of line if your container or trailer is inspected, and overall goodwill. And CTPAT is very much highly recommended by several OEMs, Toyota, Chrysler, General Motors, Honda. Several OEMs do require or highly recommend their business partners to join CTPAT. So what we've done at AIAG is we've created in the last year a supply-safe supplier security assessment system. The background is we have our custom security work group there. And several AIAG member companies were distributing CTPAT questionnaires or surveys to their supply chain partners, their tier one suppliers, their carriers, et cetera. And they were all doing this separately. So the work group got together, and the work group consists of Toyota, Chrysler, General Motors, Honda, tier one suppliers like Magna, Metaldyne. They got together and they decided to, over the process of about 2 years, through the CBP criteria for CTPAT compliance, develop a standardized automotive industry CTPAT questionnaire that would be released. And that was our goal here about 2 years ago. So what we did, we wanted this to be an online system as well, to eliminate waste, eliminate paper, email trails, etc. So we partnered with a system provider called Integration Point out of Charlotte, North Carolina, for a web-based solution. Through the work of our volunteers at Toyota, General Motors, and Chrysler, who were the first adopters of the system, they developed the first common questionnaire in November 2013 for all the 10 carriers above, ranging from air carriers, which has 4 questions, foreign manufacturers, 89 questions, 3PLs, rail carriers, Mexican long-haul carriers, etc. One important thing was that this was historic. The automotive industry was the first industry to develop the first common industry-wide CTPAT questionnaire with corrective action plans. Other industries, such as aerospace and some aspects of retail, had tried, but through the work of our volunteers, automotive was the first. And we had our first adopters, Chrysler, General Motors, and Toyota. They launched in April 2014. Honda is launching this year, and we have interest from several other OEMs, tier 1s and tier 2s. The benefits of using the system: if you are a supplier to one of the 4 OEMs I mentioned, you just have to complete 1 questionnaire instead of 4 in the past. That's universally accepted by all subscribers. This saves time, eliminates duplication of efforts, and there's less chance of error. There's no subscription cost to supply chain partners asked to fill out a CTPAT questionnaire in the system. There's a single point of contact at AIAG. Her name is Miriam Crunk. Her email address is listed there. Her native tongue is Spanish, but she speaks 5 languages, including English, Portuguese, French, and Japanese as well. And it's a web-based solution in which supply chain partners can add multiple users within various departments within their organization to fill out a questionnaire. So that's an overview of what we're doing with CTPAT. If you have any questions, I'll be at the group. And last but not least, and most importantly, I think too as well, is AIAG has partnered with Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan on supply chain training. We have the Wayne State University AIAG Supply Chain Certificate Program. This is the 2nd year that we're doing this. There are 23 unique classroom sessions held at AIAG headquarters in Southfield, Michigan. This has been spearheaded and led by Dr. John Taylor and Dr. Timothy Butler, 2 esteemed supply chain experts and professors who are here today also to answer any questions you may have about this. The 2nd annual session starts on Thursday, February 19th, 2015, and it's unique in which academics as well as industry professionals provide the training, and covers a lot of the subjects that I showed on the AIAG org chart there. And also for the first time this year, there is a Wayne State University AIAG Global Purchasing and Supply Chain Executive Program that has 4 major instructional modules that will be a week-long intensive training program that will be held May 10th through the 15th of 2015 at the Renaissance Center in Detroit, Michigan. Again, if you have any questions, Dr. Taylor and Dr. Butler will gladly answer any of those throughout the conference here. So thanks again. I know everyone's anxious to get to lunch and appreciate your time today. If you have any questions, please email me at bhall@aiag.org. Stop by the booth and enjoy the conference, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, thank you again, Brian. We kind of made this theme a little bit around investment and regional investment, but it's turning out to be at least as much about human investment and training as some of those initiatives that Brian pointed to, which obviously relate as well to some of the training aspects we talked about with the governor. Just a quick reminder that you will receive the presentations. Any presentation that can be made public, you will receive an email link in the early part of next week as soon as possible, and there you'll be able to download all the presentations as well as photographs and other things. And these sessions, as mentioned, they'll be archived on the website within around 24 hours of us doing them. We've got about 10 minutes to lunch, or we're gonna take about 10 minutes for Q&A, and then we actually have I didn't mention in the beginning, but the U.S. ambassador to Mexico is going to be speaking during our lunch, so we don't want to be too late for that. But I think this is a good opportunity to open up the floor. Again, we can start with anybody who has a question on the floor. If we have a question kind of right in the middle, Brett, if you can. You have a microphone coming, so if you can just say your name and company when you get it.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Antonio Martínez de Seglo Logistics. Primero, felicitar al señor gobernador del estado de Guanajuato por el crecimiento y por la manera en la que el estado ha empezado a desarrollarse. Comentaba el señor gobernador el tema del capital humano y bueno.
Capital, Mr. Governor, and we have been witnessing and joining the state throughout its development. Which programs or how is the government preparing for the potential growth that you showed in your presentation, particularly the operational basis, because if by far 40,000 employments have been created, and with the forecast growth, how is the state preparing for training workforce and be ready to face the challenges you presented? Well, thank you, Antonio. I want to tell you that for us, human capital is a must. In Guanajuato, we have an important transformation, particularly in education. So you can get an idea, in the past 8 years, we have more than 30 new universities, campuses. In these past 2 years, approximately 80 new higher education institutions have been established, and most of them are dedicated for engineering, but also we have training institutes, and this is about specific processes required by the industry. We have AIAG, which is an educational institution, and it specifies in the requirements of each company, and they train students on the specific processes. We have Pirelli Institute, Volkswagen Institute, American Accent Institute, that represent international companies that have helped us in this subject. So in Guanajuato, this is one element of the logistics basis, human capital, and customized to the needs of companies. We call it educational pertinence. Muchas
Any
gracias.
other questions from the floor at this time? Perhaps one from my side, also to Governor Marquez. You mentioned Guanajuato is one of the safest states in Mexico, but I think nonetheless concerns about cargo security, vandalism, theft, I mean, they are to the fore of everybody's when they're talking with Mexico. Can you talk about anything that the government is doing to help improve security at production plants across the state, and particularly also for logistics?
Yes, that's right. For us, security is also a must in our state. In Guanajuato, we worked hard, particularly in the intelligence part. I am certain that security is fought with education, work, and intelligence. In less than 1 year, we had established a fiber optic network throughout the state with highway arcs surveying cameras, where we have a C5 that allow us to have surveillance and intelligence control center monitoring the state and our borderline with different countries, Michoacán, Jalisco, Querétaro, San Luis, Aguascalientes, and help us see who comes in and out of our state. This is also taken to industrial facilities so we can survey, have a constant survey on everything that happens in these areas. For us, this is fundamental. We invested 2.5 billion pesos, one of the strongest investments in security, and this C5 won second place last year as the best infrastructure nationwide, as I said earlier, and it has become a national model. More than 10 states of Mexico have replicated this good practice that it was achieved in a very short term, and certainly we are committed with the security issue that it's becoming now a competitiveness factor. If I may, I want to say that tourism, as I said, tourism increased also, not only business but tourism. Guanajuato holds the 7th position in tourism. We have advanced in 5 positions in the past 2 years. We are competing against Cancun, Los Cabos, Vallarta. We just need sea and sun, but to become number 1. But the truth is that we have climbing up to this ranking. We have built 22 more hotels, so growth in tourism brings 15% of sustained growth. Only in tourism, more than 135,000 employees. We hold important events because, Chris, in life not only work is important. Those who visit Guanajuato to conduct business, they enjoy the state, they are safe, we enjoy security, and families, visitors can bring in their families. We have 2 colonial cities, heritage of humanity, San Miguel, Guanajuato. We were ranked the best city to visit. We have the FIA, we have the Cervantine International Festival, receiving representatives from more than 30 countries. So, Guanajuato has been consolidated as a cultural destination of Mexico, and security plays an important role as well here.
Thank you. Well, you've managed to build a very successful port without an ocean, with the inland port project, so maybe you can, find a way to increase the tourism even without the sea there. I'm sure some of the governors and entourage would be happy to take your hotel bookings as well as your business arrangements as well, so you can come to the front. No, but seriously, again, that's all fantastic points. I think focus on intelligence security and monitoring. This is obviously very much part of the future, and great to hear that the state is focused on that as well. I got maybe one more question for the panel, but I'll give the audience a chance to pipe in. I know you're all quite hungry. Okay, last question I think is for Brian and Joseph. Since you do business and you deal with companies interested in Mexico or trying to do business in Mexico, what do you see as some of the existing barriers to entry here, barriers to investment or to deepening the business presence in Mexico? So obviously what then can and should be done to help facilitate that?
I guess I'll start. There aren't a lot of significant barriers. I think one that I can comment on is lack of information, basically in terms of not knowing what to expect in coming to Mexico. I think most potential investors have a pleasant surprise when we get involved as a chamber in providing support, information, and then in introducing these potential investors to the relevant, whether it's a government official or other potential partners. Once that's done, that lack of knowledge or information or suspicion really goes away. So they're mostly pleasantly surprised.
I think you're on.
Okay, great. I would second those comments as well, and a lot of training has been mentioned a lot today too, and I think our organizations are working to provide that as much as we can in the development of the workforce here.
Okay, great. Well, I think now is a chance we'll move on to lunch, but please, I'd like to thank Governor Marquez, AIG, and the U.S.-Mexico Chamber of Commerce for their participation and presentation today, so thank you very much. A reminder to you all that as well as the Ryder-hosted lunch, we're having the U.S. Ambassador to Mexico speak, so please don't schedule a siesta in right now. Come join us for lunch.